Mr. Carter, according to the test results, there is no biological relationship between you and the two children. The courtroom fell silent. I felt as if someone had punched me in the stomach. My ears were ringing. The blood was rushing to my head. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Not one of them. Both girl, not my biological children. I turned to Madison. She was smiling. I am Ethan Carter, 37 years old, a construction engineer. My job is not glamorous, not extravagant, but it provides stability. I am not rich, but I have never let my wife and daughters lack anything. I work tirelessly, never complain, just to ensure that my wife and two daughters have the best life possible. I work long shifts, sometimes coming home late at night, my body exhausted from standing under the scorching sun all day. But the only thing that makes me smile is coming home and seeing Emma, 8 years old, and Lily, 5 years old, running to hug me, excitedly telling me about their day. When I married Madison, I believed I had found the perfect woman. She was everything a man could wish for. Beautiful, charming, with a radiant smile and a sweet voice. Madison used to be a gentle wife, sitting beside me every evening, holding my hand, telling me how proud she was to have a hardworking husband. But those words disappeared long ago. I don't know exactly when she changed. At first, it was small changes. She started spending more time online, taking pictures of her breakfast, snapping selfies at the gym, posing in front of the mirror with new dresses. Her Facebook and Instagram were filled with pictures of our happy family, pictures I had no idea when she took, dinners where she never really sat down to eat with us, too busy adjusting the angle of her camera to get the perfect shot. I once saw Emma ask her, "Mom, can I eat now?" But Madison only said, "Wait until I finish taking pictures, sweetie." Our family meals gradually became props for her to show off on social media. She started chasing shallow luxuries, joining high-class women's groups, attending extravagant gatherings where they discussed fashion, designer bags, and travel. And me? I became nothing more than a background character in the picture she painted. She started coming home late. At first, it was just a night out with friends, or so she said. "I'm going out for a bit with the girls. We all need personal time, don't we?" I didn't object. She had the right to have a life outside of our family. But a bit turned into a night, then another night, then 2-3 nights a week. I wasn't a fool. I noticed the lingering scent of men's cologne on her dresses. I found restaurant receipts from high-end places, places I had never been to. Whenever I asked, Madison smirked. "Ethan, you're so naive. You don't understand what women need." She told me I was always buried in work, didn't know how to enjoy life. She said I was too old-fashioned, too simple for her new lifestyle. I looked at Emma and Lily, my two little girls, the loves of my life. I told myself I had to endure it for them. But then I realized our bank account was running dry. I always made sure our bills, electricity, water, school tuition, daily expenses, were paid on time. But when I checked our bank account, a large sum of money was missing. Withdrawals from luxury fashion boutiques, jewelry stores, high-end spas, and hotels. I sat staring at the numbers on the screen, my mind blank. For the first time in our 12-year marriage, I felt I no longer recognized the woman I once loved. I confronted Madison. "Why are you spending so much money?" She glanced at me without even blinking. "What, do you want me to go out looking like some poor housewife?" I clenched my fists. "And the hotel charges?" She shrugged. "Sometimes I need a quiet place to relax." A quiet place or a place to cheat? I wanted to trust my wife, but everything was falling apart. Arguments became more frequent. I worked harder to make sure Emma and Lily never lacked anything. And her? She drifted further and further away. I no longer recognized my marriage. I couldn't remember the last time Madison looked at me the way a wife looks at her husband. I had become an invisible man in my own home. But I kept going. For my children. I wanted to believe that things could be fixed. Until one day, she asked for a divorce. Ethan, I think we should end this. I sat frozen, staring at the woman in front of me. The woman I had loved, married, and sacrificed everything for. End it? I asked, my voice hoarse. We're done, Ethan. I need a better life. Better? You have everything. A home, a family. What more do you want? Madison simply smirked. Don't you get it? You're a good man, Ethan, but you're not the man I need. That sentence killed the last bit of hope in me. I agreed to the divorce. I didn't care about money or assets. I only wanted custody of my daughters. Emma and Lily were my everything, but I had no idea that a horrifying truth was waiting for me in court. The courtroom was cold and sterile, yet the tension inside was suffocating. Every gaze was fixed on us, Madison and me, as if this was no longer just a divorce trial, but a grand spectacle. One everyone had been waiting to witness. The jury sat in rigid silence, attorneys on both sides ready, while the judge meticulously flipped through the case files. In the audience section, I spotted Rebecca, Olivia, and Sophia, Madison's closest friends. They weren't here to support her. They were here to see how much she could take from me. A silent wager. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Everything had already come this far. Madison's attorney stood, a polished, shrewd man with a smirk that barely hid his arrogance. Your Honor, we are here today to ensure that my client, Mrs. Madison Carter, receives fair compensation after years of being neglected in her own marriage. Neglected? I clenched my fists beneath the table, struggling to swallow the rage boiling inside me. Madison rested her elbows on the table, her face a perfect mask of sorrow, as if she were truly a woman abandoned and cast aside. For 12 years, I devoted my life to this family. I did everything for my husband, for my children, and what did I get in return? Cold indifference, neglect, and countless nights spent alone in an empty house. She placed a delicate hand on her chest. A flawless performance. I watch other women, and they have husbands who cherish them, adore them, spoil them, and me? Madison turned sharply, pointing directly at her group of friends. Rebecca has a husband who brings her flowers on every special occasion. Olivia gets taken to Paris every year. Sophia never has to worry about money because her husband provides for her. Then she whipped her head back to face me, her eyes burning with accusation. And me, Ethan? Have I ever received a gift from you? Have I ever been treated like a real wife? Have I ever felt like a queen? Murmurs rippled through the room. I couldn't hold it in any longer. My attorney gave me a cautious glance, but I had already decided I wouldn't sit here and be slandered. I stood. I could feel every pair of eyes locked onto me, waiting for the response of the terrible husband Madison had just described. I didn't care anymore. You say I neglected our family? Madison lifted her chin, arms crossed, her face a mask of defiance. Do you dare deny it, Ethan? I let out a dry laugh. Neglected? I worked my hands raw day and night to pay for our house, our children's education, their medical bills, everything you and they ever needed. And you call that neglect? A hush fell over the room. My gaze swept over Madison's group of friends before landing back on her. You want to compare me to Rebecca's husband, Olivia's, and Sophia's? I took a deep breath, then continued. Rebecca's husband can afford to bring her flowers on every special occasion because he doesn't have to foot all the household bills. Olivia gets to go to Paris every year because she's not the sole provider for her kids. Sophia doesn't have to worry about money because she doesn't drain her husband's savings on designer handbags. Madison blinked rapidly, struggling to compose herself. I took a step forward, never breaking eye contact with Madison. You wanted me to make you feel like a queen? She remained silent, but her lips trembled slightly. A queen who doesn't have to worry about money? A queen who only enjoys the luxuries of life without considering who's carrying the burden? I laughed coldly. I'm sorry, Madison, I didn't marry a queen. I married a wife. But clearly I was wrong from the start. Madison gritted her teeth, her voice hissing. All you ever cared about was money. You never once thought about how I felt. I tapped my fingers lightly against the table. my gaze never wavering from hers. I cared, Madison. I cared when you drained our savings on useless luxuries. I cared when I saw you coming home past midnight wearing perfume that wasn't mine. Silence. Rebecca and Olivia exchanged glances. They knew, but they never thought I knew too. Madison bit her lip, as if she couldn't believe I had the audacity to expose her here. But I had nothing left to lose. I lowered my voice, just enough for her to hear. You said I never made you feel like a queen. So tell me, Madison, which man did? She stiffened, her eyes widening. I smirked, not waiting for an answer. The judge cleared his throat, signaling to move on. I believe we should now proceed with asset division. Madison's friends giggled softly again. They didn't care about who was right or wrong. They only came to see how much Madison could take from me. Madison bit her lip, but it wasn't out of hesitation or shame. She had prepared for this. Keeping her posture poised and arrogant, she tilted her head slightly, her gaze full of challenge, then lifted her chin toward me. Do you really think your words can silence me, Ethan? Not an ounce of fear. She was never the type to back down, especially when standing in a courtroom filled with spectators, eager to see how this drama would unfold. Madison turned toward the jury, her eyes flashing, as if she were delivering a powerful speech. Do you all see this? This is the perfect example of male entitlement. They want to control us, trap us in the kitchen, force us to take care of children, wash clothes, cook meals, and never allow us to have a life of our own. She slammed her hand on the table, her performance flawless. I endured this for years. I lived as a shadow. While other women were treated like queens, cherished and adored, I was stuck with a man who only cared about his job. Murmurs spread through the audience. I could see Rebecca and Olivia nodding approvingly, a few others shaking their heads, looking at Madison with pity and sympathy. She was turning the tide in her favor. She was painting me as the villain. But I wouldn't let her win. I remained calm, my eyes locked onto Madison. You call me controlling? You say I forced you into the kitchen? I laughed dryly, but this time it wasn't out of amusement. Madison, stop pretending. You can say whatever you want, but the people in this room are not fools. I turned toward the jury, my voice low and deliberate, each word sharp as a knife slicing through the tension. She claims I never let her have a life of her own? Then let me remind her exactly how she enjoyed that life. The room fell silent. Madison blinked rapidly, retreating slightly, but quickly regained her composure. I was traveling for work. She suddenly raised her voice. Do you expect me to sit at home forever? I have a career, I have a job. I can't just be a housewife stuck taking care of kids all day. I scoffed. Oh, really? And what exactly is your job, Madison? You know I work in fashion. I have multiple events to attend. Right. Events that happen at 2 a.m. in luxury hotels? Madison's face went pale for a split second. I didn't stop. I wouldn't give her the chance to recover. What kind of job keeps a married woman out until 4 a.m. with a disheveled dress? What kind of job makes you ignore your husband's calls all night? What kind of job has you coming home smelling like another man's cologne? I gritted my teeth, my stare pinning her in place. I never stopped you from having a life, Madison. I just wonder, was it really work? Or was it something else? Madison slammed her hands on the table, her voice turning into a near scream. Don't you dare slander me, Ethan! She turned toward the jury, her eyes burning with anger. He's trying to ruin my reputation. Just because I have a career, he wants to paint me as a cheater? She flipped her hair back, regaining her arrogant stance. He's always been jealous, always tried to control me, always doubted me. Does a woman going out to earn money automatically mean she's being unfaithful? I tightened my fists, then forced myself to relax. I took a slow, deep breath. I'm not jealous, Madison. I'm just asking questions. And I think any man in the world would have the right to ask questions when his wife spends more time in hotel rooms than at home. Madison froze. I saw Rebecca and Olivia exchange quick glances, a hint of unease flashing across their faces. They had known Madison for too long not to realize how much truth there was in my words. They had seen her coming home late. They had covered for her, but they never thought I knew. The atmosphere grew thick with tension. The judge cleared his throat, his voice stern. I believe we should proceed with the asset division. Madison smirked, as if finally we were getting to the most important part. Her friends grinned, as if this was what they had been waiting for all along. They didn't care who was right or wrong. They only wanted to see how much Madison could take from me. But what they didn't know was, the game wasn't over yet. The court orders both parties to cease arguments. The judge's voice rang out, firm and irrefutable. Both Madison and I fell silent, not because we had nothing left to say, but because no one could keep shouting when the ultimate authority in this room had spoken. The tension in the courtroom was thick, suffocating, like an invisible force was tightening around us, pressing down with unbearable weight. The judge looked at us, his expression tired, almost exasperated. Based on what the court has witnessed today, it is evident that this marriage is beyond repair. The conflict between you two is not just about financial assets or child custody. It is a battle of betrayal, mistrust, and bitterness. Neither of us spoke. I could feel a sharp pain pressing against my chest, but I could not afford to falter now. I glanced at Emma and Lily, sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom. They had been there the entire time. I knew they didn't fully understand everything that was happening, but they had seen their parents turn against each other, tearing apart whatever was left of this so-called family. Emma clutched Lily's hand tightly, as if trying to shield her younger sister from the chaos unfolding before them. Lily pressed against Emma's side, her big round eyes filled with unspoken questions. Yet she did not cry. They could feel everything collapsing, but they could do nothing to stop it. I wanted to hold them, to tell them everything would be okay, to protect them from the horrors of this moment. But I couldn't, not until the truth was spoken. Before the court can make a final decision regarding child custody, there is one matter that must be addressed. The judge's voice remained steady, but I could sense a shift in the atmosphere. The court is now prepared to announce the DNA test results for the two children. Madison froze. Her eyes flickered, blinking rapidly as if she had misheard something. DNA test? Madison repeated, her voice sharpening, turning toward me. You requested a DNA test? Why? I didn't answer. Not because I lacked a response, but because I could not put into words why I had done it. I had no concrete evidence. I had no clear reason to doubt. I had trusted Madison. I had believed that Emma and Lily were my daughters, that they carried my blood, my name, my legacy. But there had been moments, faint whispers of doubt that I had buried deep inside. Madison's late nights, the messages she hid on her phone, the inexplicable hotel bills, and Lily's eyes. There had been times I looked at Lily and wondered why she didn't resemble me at all. But I had always dismissed those thoughts, convincing myself that love was greater than genetics, that I was their father because I had loved them, raised them, protected them from the moment they were born. But what if I was nothing more than a fool who had been deceived for over a decade? That was why I had secretly ordered the DNA test. I had told no one, not Madison, not even my lawyer, only I knew. And now, the truth was about to be spoken in front of everyone. You, Madison stammered, for the first time in her life at a loss for words. She turned sharply toward me, her eyes burning with fury. You had a DNA test done without telling me? Her voice shook, not with fear, but with rage. Madison could not believe that I had doubted her. She could not believe that I, the man who had blindly trusted her for years, had finally dared to uncover the truth. Why? Madison shrieked, slamming her hands against the table. Why would you do this, Ethan? You think I would lie to you? I am your wife. I gave birth to your children. Why would you do this? I did not answer immediately. I looked at Emma and Lily. They were still there. Emma bit her lip, her face pale, as if she had already guessed what was coming. Lily stared at me, blinking repeatedly, as if searching my face for something she had never seen before. I turned back to Madison, and I spoke slowly. I didn't doubt you, Madison. I just wanted to know the truth. No one moved, not a single sound. The only noise in the room was the rustling of paper as the judge opened the envelope containing the DNA test results. Everything felt like it was moving in slow motion, as if even time itself was holding its breath, waiting for the truth to be revealed. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, heavy and erratic, sweat prickling along my forehead. I turned to Madison. She sat frozen, her hands clasped together so tightly, her knuckles turned white, her nails digging into her palms. She was no longer protesting, and that was when I realized she already knew the answer. The courtroom was as tense as a loaded gun. I clenched my fists, feeling the damp sweat pooling in my palms. My heart pounded heavily, each beat a painful reminder that my world was about to change forever. I locked eyes with the judge, waiting for him to confirm the truth I had both feared and refused to believe could exist. He carefully opened the envelope, pulling out a simple sheet of paper that held the answer to everything. The judge lifted his gaze, his face impassive, professional. But when he spoke, his words sliced through me like a blade heated in fire. The DNA test results indicate that Mr. Ethan Carter has no biological relationship with the first child, Emma Carter. Boom! Everything collapsed in an instant. My entire body went numb, as if a lightning bolt had struck me right where I sat. No! I blinked, trying to process each word. But they made no sense anymore. Not Emma. Not her. She was my daughter. She carried my name. She was the light of my life. How could this be? How could this be? I inhaled sharply, but it felt like there was no air left in the room. My chest tightened, my heart raced erratically, and the world tilted beneath me. Everything became distorted, unfamiliar, as if I were watching my own life crumble from a distance, and I was powerless to stop it. I wanted to say something, to protest, to scream that this was a mistake, but my throat closed up, unable to produce a single sound. And then Emma broke down in tears. She collapsed onto her seat, her small shoulders trembling, her big eyes wide with terror and confusion. "Daddy! Daddy!" She sobbed, but no one could save her from this truth. I felt frozen in place. Daddy? Was I still her father? I had held her in my arms the day she was born. I had comforted her through thunderstorms. I had taught her how to ride a bike, how to tie her shoelaces, how to get back up after falling. I had given her everything. And now I was just a stranger to the child I loved more than my own life? I turned to Madison, my entire being screaming in agony, my chest feeling like it was about to burst. She said nothing. No tears, no explanation. She simply lowered her head, staring at her hands, as if this had nothing to do with her. No apology, no remorse, not a single ounce of guilt. She had known all along, and yet she let me live this lie for 8 years. Madison Carter, the woman I had loved, the woman I had sacrificed my life for, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. She stole my youth, she stole my trust, and now she had stolen my daughter from me. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Whispers, gasps, murmurs, it all blurred together into an indistinct roar. But I heard nothing, only the deafening echo of my heartbeat, hammering against my ribs. The judge spoke again, this time with a slightly softer tone, as if even he could see that I was on the verge of breaking completely. "Mr. Carter, do you wish to proceed with the results for the second child?" The entire courtroom held its breath. All eyes turned to me. Did I want to? A part of me wanted to run out of this room, to cling to the last shred of hope, that at least one child was still mine, that I hadn't lost everything. But deep down I knew. I already knew the answer. I took a slow, shuddering breath, my hands clenching so tightly my nails dug into my skin. I couldn't stop now. I want to hear it. The judge held my gaze for a long moment, then looked down at the sheet in his hands. I could no longer hear anything. Everything blurred except for the way his lips moved as he spoke. And then I heard it. The sentence that shattered what little remained of me. The DNA results indicate that Mr. Ethan Carter has no biological relationship with the second child. Lily Carter. I had nothing left. No home, no wife, no children, no anything. You really didn't see this coming, Ethan? Her voice was cold, sharp as steel, cutting through the air like a blade slicing straight through flesh. But I didn't immediately turn to face her. I couldn't, because in front of me, Emma and Lily were clinging to each other, sobbing uncontrollably. Their small bodies shook violently, as if they were trying to hold on to something that had already been ripped away from them. Emma buried her face into Lily's shoulder, her sobs breaking through in fractured gasps. Lily held on to her sister, but her wide, tear-filled eyes were locked onto me. My daughters. The two little girls I had loved more than my own life. The two children I once believed were my everything. Now they looked at me with terror, with desperation, as if they no longer understood the world around them. Tears streamed down their cheeks, soaking into the remnants of what was once our family. They searched for answers in me, for reassurance that everything would be okay, that I was still their father. But I had no answers to give them. I couldn't reach out and hold them. I couldn't tell them everything was fine. Because it wasn't. Because Madison had destroyed everything. Slowly I turned my head. Madison sat there, calm, composed. No regret. No tears. Not even a flicker of concern for the two children crying their hearts out right in front of her. She just smirked, as if this was nothing more than a well-played move in a game she had already won. As if everything I had sacrificed for her meant absolutely nothing. I stared at her, searching for a sliver of humanity, for a shred of guilt, for anything that would prove she wasn't completely heartless. But there was nothing. Not a flicker of pain, not a single tear. Only satisfaction. She was enjoying this. She had been waiting for this moment. You were never the man for me. The words left her mouth so effortlessly, as if they held no weight at all. But they shattered me, like a blade being driven deep into my chest, twisting slowly. I sat there frozen, paralyzed, the world around me blurred, voices fading into a distant echo. Everything spun, but I couldn't close my eyes. I had to look at her. Look at the monster I had loved for 12 years. I had given my youth for her. I had trusted her more than I trusted myself. I had sacrificed everything to keep our family together. And now, I realized I had never known who this woman truly was. For 8 years, I had raised another man's children, and I never even knew. The entire courtroom buzzed with whispers, disgusted stares, pitying glances, low chuckles from the back. Someone muttered under their breath, "What a fool!" A few snickered, a sound laced with ridicule. Everything felt like a nightmare, but I couldn't wake up. I was surrounded by shame, by humiliation deeper than anything I had ever imagined. And Madison sat there, relishing every second of my destruction. She thinks she's won. She thinks I will crumble. She thinks this is my end. But she doesn't know that. I won't break. I won't shatter. I'm waiting. Because this game isn't over. She deceived me. She laughed at my pain. But she won't be laughing for much longer. Because from this moment forward, her nightmare is only just beginning. The courtroom was drenched in tense silence. Every eye was locked onto me, waiting for my final decision. The court had given me permission to forfeit custody. I could stand up, turn my back, and walk away, leaving everything behind as if none of this had ever happened. No more responsibilities. No more Madison. No more children I once believed were mine. I had the chance to escape it all, and Madison knew it. She sat there, still poised, still exuding unshakable confidence, as if she had already secured her victory. Her face showed no concern. Her lips curved into a smug half-smile. Mocking. Triumphant. "Ethan, you should be grateful." Madison's voice was soft, almost gentle, as if she were bestowing a final favor upon me. "At least you had a happy family for 8 years." As if I should be thankful for being deceived. As if I was the fool who didn't appreciate what I had. She was certain I would walk away. She was sure I wouldn't be able to accept this reality. She was convinced that I would let her leave here with full custody, all the assets, and a perfect victory. But then, I stood up. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. No movement, no breaths. I didn't turn away. I didn't lower my head. I stood tall, my gaze locked onto Madison's. My unwavering composure made her freeze. No more satisfaction, no more triumph. Just a flicker of uncertainty she couldn't hide. "You can betray me." My voice was cold as ice, each word sharp and deliberate, as if I were delivering an unchangeable verdict. "But I will not betray my daughters." The courtroom fell deathly silent. Madison blinked rapidly, the smile on her lips vanishing completely. She didn't understand what was happening. She never expected me to fight for custody. "Emma and Lily may not share my blood, but they are my daughters. I held them when they were sick, rocked them to sleep every night, taught them to ride their bikes, held their hands when they were scared. I was the only one who never abandoned them, and I wouldn't start now." The courtroom remained frozen in shock, but I wasn't finished yet. The judge cleared his throat, flipping through the case file before making the final ruling. "Tissunos." After reviewing all aspects of this case, the court has decided that Mrs. Madison Carter will not receive any portion of the marital assets due to her deceit and infidelity against Mr. Ethan Carter over the years. The courtroom erupted. Whispers, gasps, murmurs. Waves of shock and disbelief rippled through the audience. And in the midst of the chaos, Madison stood frozen. She didn't move, her eyes wide in utter disbelief. Her lips parted, trying to form words, but none came out. No, that's my money." She stared at the judge, her voice trembling, her tone sharper than ever. "I am his legal wife. I have rights. Where's my lawyer? Fix this ruling." She slammed her hands onto the table, her eyes blazing with fury, turning to her attorney. But the lawyer simply shook his head, his face pale with discomfort. No, this is a mistake. I gave 12 years of my life. I deserve half of everything." Madison screamed, her breathing erratic, her face flushed with rage. She couldn't accept it. She couldn't believe she had lost everything. She thought she would walk out of here victorious. But now she had nothing. I saw the panic creeping into Madison's expression. For the first time, she was truly afraid. She glanced around the room, desperately seeking help, support, someone to fix this. But no one stood up for her. Rebecca and Olivia looked away, their amused smirks long gone. Even her own lawyer just shook his head in silence. No one wanted to be associated with a loser. Madison's breathing grew shallow, her hands gripping the edge of the table, her nails digging into her own skin. I could see the realization dawning on her face. She never imagined this ending. She not only lost custody, she was left with nothing. Madison snapped her head toward me, her eyes burning with fury and desperation. "Ethan!" Her voice was hoarse, trembling with both anger and disbelief. "You can't do this to me." She wanted me to change my mind. She wanted to drag me down with her. But I simply stared at her for a long moment, then slowly shook my head. "No, Madison, you did this to yourself." For the first time, I saw her eyes tremble. I leaned forward slightly, my voice low just for her. "You thought I would abandon the kids. But I am not you." Madison sucked in a sharp breath, but there was nothing left to say. She lost. She had lost everything. No husband, no children, no money, nothing. I walked out of the courtroom, but this time, I wasn't the broken man she expected me to be. I didn't lose everything, but Madison did. And from this day forward, she would live in the loneliness she had created for herself. I walked out of the courtroom, stepping into the sunlight with a sense of relief like I had never felt before. The afternoon sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, but I hardly noticed. All I felt were the two small hands gripping mine tightly. Emma and Lily. The children I once thought weren't mine, but now they were everything to me. I led them to the car, opening the door carefully, making sure they were settled into the back seat. I fastened Lily's seatbelt, then gently ran my fingers through her soft hair. "Dad's still here." Emma looked up at me, her eyes still glistening with the remnants of past tears. But for the first time in days, I saw a hint of peace in them. I brought my daughters home. Their home. Madison thought she had won. She thought she would leave the courtroom victorious, with assets, a fresh start, and a circle of adoring friends singing her praises. But she had no idea that her real nightmare was just beginning. 3 days after the trial, Madison was abandoned by everyone. Rebecca, Olivia, Sophia, the very same women who once idolized her, praised her, envied her lifestyle, were nowhere to be found. No one wanted to be associated with a woman who had lost everything. No wealth, no status, no lavish lifestyle to flaunt. Madison was left in the shadows, discarded by the very people who once admired her. She was alone, adrift, with no one to turn to. On social media, Madison had once been a symbol of success, the perfect woman with the perfect life, the perfect family, the perfect marriage. She used to post pictures of herself being adored by her husband, admired by her friends, living the high life. But now, no one cared anymore. Her posts no longer got thousands of likes, no more adoring comments, instead just cold indifference, even scorn. What right does a cheater have to talk about happiness? Thought she was the perfect woman. Turns out she was just another liar. Now that no brands are sponsoring her, let's see how she keeps up that luxury lifestyle. Madison desperately tried to cling to her old image, but no one was listening anymore. Brands that once worked with her cut ties immediately. No company wanted to be associated with a woman whose infidelity had been exposed in court. The doors that were once wide open for Madison were now slamming shut in her face. 3 months later, I had just dropped Emma and Lily off at school and was preparing my morning coffee when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I stared at the screen for a moment, then answered. The voice on the other end was hoarse, weak, nothing like the Madison I used to know. Ethan! A long silence. Then I heard a muffled sob. Can you help me? I have nothing left. I put her on speaker. Emma and Lily were standing nearby, watching me. Lily blinked. Emma gripped the hem of her shirt tightly. They had once heard their mother scream at me. They had once witnessed her smirk as she destroyed my life. But now, for the first time in their lives, they heard their mother beg. I hung up. 2 years later, I sat on the couch, my fingers lightly tapping the armrest, as Emma played a soft melody on the piano, her fingers gracefully dancing across the keys. Lily sat beside me, deeply engrossed in her drawing, her colored pencils gliding over the paper, bringing a vibrant picture to life. My daughters. They were still happy, carefree children. They didn't share my blood, but they were mine. I glanced at a framed photograph on the wall. Me, Emma, and Lily laughing on the beach, the ocean waves rolling behind us. I had lost a deceitful marriage, but I had kept my real family. I had heard things about Madison. She was still trying to claw her way back into her old world, still searching for another man to replace me, to fund the life she once had. But no one cared about her anymore. No one welcomed her back. No one wanted to be associated with a woman who had betrayed her own family. Madison once wanted everything: money, fame, attention, a perfect life. But now, she had nothing. I stood up, stepping onto the balcony, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in golden hues. A soft breeze drifted by, carrying with it a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. I closed my eyes, inhaling deeply, feeling whole for the first time in my life. And then I smiled. The blood doesn't make a father. Love and sacrifice do.